My name is Daniel Atkinson. I'm the manager of public programs here at the MCA Chicago. Welcome. This evening's program will be Access Praxis, Pooja, Pittie. Thank you all for coming, and thank you also to our generous funders, a full list of which you can see in the slide behind me here. Thank you, production team. Before we begin, we'd be grateful if you would kindly turn off your cell phones really quick, if you could check them, unless, of course, you're using them for captioning. There's captioning that will appear. There's a QR code that'll pop up here in just a second. You can use this QR code to get captioning. There's also captioning on the side here if you need it. I want to acknowledge that the MCA sits on unceded Potawatomi territory, that the Ojibwe, Ottawa, Peoria, Miami, Mascoutin, Sac and Fox, Kickapoo, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, and other nations have also lived, gathered, and traded in this region, and that today Chicago is home to one of the largest urban indigenous populations in the U.S. I'm not going to say any more words on behalf of the MCA. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague here, Carrie Sandel from Bodies of Work, who's been a consistent collaborator on this and other programs here at the MCA for an extended period of time. She will fully introduce the series program and say a few words about the artist this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. It's a beautiful afternoon. Glad that you're here sharing it with us. Again, my name is Carrie Sandal, and I am a professor at the University of Illinois in Chicago, and I'm the co-director of Bodies of Work. We are an organization that is committed to creating new work in collaboration with local artists that reimagines the disability experience in new and unexpected ways. And we have an artist residency program, we host lectures, we collaborate with community partners to highlight the work of artists with disabilities. So the series today, Access Praxis, is a collaboration that we began 4 years ago now with the MCA. And Access Praxis, the title means the theory into practice. And what we're doing is thinking creatively about access and how access can inform our aesthetic practices as artists. So with Bodies of Work and with the Access Praxis series, we're interested in thinking about disability access not as something that is tacked on at the end of a process, but it's something that we look to as a source of generation and something interesting in and of itself. So the artists who are part of this series are ones who have worked with us in Bodies of Work and Pooja was one of our artists in residence who were very interested in how the disability experience, either in content, in talking about disability, or in form, or in process, how it informs creative potential. So that is what we have Pooja to share with us today. She's going to share her artistic practice with us through a talk. Then there'll be a Q&A. And then we're going to do an art making practice together. And let's see, I think that was everything on my card. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Pooja.
Thank you. Thank you, Carrie and Bodies of Work, and thank you to the MCA for having me here today. My name is Pooja Pittie. I'm a painter and a fiber artist practicing here in Chicago. My background was in business and accounting, but I made a switch about 8 years ago to start painting full-time. And I introduced fiber as a medium about 5 years ago. So for today's talk, I wanted to stay away from the traditional presentation and try something a little bit different to give you maybe a hint at how time moves for me as a disabled woman, which is, not a very smoothly flowing experience as it was when I was able-bodied. So before we begin, I just wanted to take a minute to describe myself. I'm a brown woman of Indian origin with brown hair, shoulder-length hair. I'm wearing a black shirt, black jeans, black and white sneakers. I'm seated in a wheelchair. I have a green leather bracelet. Behind me, you'll see some images of my work. I will not really be referring to them, but I tend to use bright colors, so you'll see images of bright paintings, brightly colored paintings, some of them installed in a gallery space, some close-ups and detail of my fiber artwork. And yeah, so thank you again for being here. And like Carrie said, there'll be a Q&A at the end, and we'll do an optional making activity as well. So. So why do I use fiber? Because it bends with me. It is flexible but does not demand any precision. If I drop a stitch when I'm knitting, I can either pick it up or I can just leave it. So fiber for me, it absorbs uncertainty, which is a big part of my experience, both as a disabled woman as well as a practicing artist. Fiber has provided such an accessible medium for me in the last 5 years, as I've not been able to paint every day like I used to. It's a medium that really allows me to experiment with color. It initially began as a way for me to not experiment with color as such, but just kind of satisfy my need to work with color. And very quickly it became like its own thing, and I would say now it's more, the hours I spend working with fiber are a lot more than I do with paint. And I still consider myself a painter, so I feel like I approach the fiber also as a way of drawing and painting, but just with a more tactile and less messy medium. A studio note from July 14th, 2020. I should do more today. I should do nothing today. Is slowness a constraint or a gift? It was very challenging for me to slow down. The way I was raised, the career that I was following before I started my practice was very much about you have to keep going and you have to work really long hours and you're always chasing after something, and slowing down was not really an option. I would say when I started my practice and I was painting 5, 6, 7 hours a day, almost every day. And then I realized as my condition was progressing that I cannot do that anymore. And I would say that slowing down was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn. So I don't want to romanticize slowing down at all. I had to do it because I did not have a choice. And I think, like with anything else in life, you're faced with a situation that you cannot change, and then you start to see it as a gift. So I do say now that it is more of a gift because it's giving me a different perspective on life and on making art. We've all heard about slowing down in life, and I think especially since the pandemic, I just heard it constantly. We all heard it. And yes, that is, I would say, a more romantic version of slowing down and enjoying life. My reality is not that romantic, but I would still say that slowing down whenever you can, if it's not for hours or days like me, I think there is definitely a universally meaningful experience that we can all share. And I do hope that with my work, it allows you to, if you view my work in person, to take that opportunity to slow down. So in that sense, if slowness is a gift to me, I hope to gift some of that back to the viewer through my work as well. Why abstraction? This was actually quite an easy language for me, simply because the experience of working as a disabled woman is not easy. So abstraction was the only way that I thought I could communicate all these layers of complexity of all my identities, if you will, whether it's like a mother, a disabled woman, a person who grew up in India, now lives in the US. I just did not want to give viewers some kind of literal narrative or explanation about my experiences. I wanted that kind of openness where instead of searching for a message in my work, viewers may be relating to something of their own experience and their own life. And I think both in painting and the fiber work, just using the language of abstraction with color has provided the most obvious way for me to communicate my lived experience. Time is my everything. This is actually the title of a song by Ian Brown of the Stone Roses. The first letter of all the words in this sentence form the acronym TIME, and it's a beautiful song. Time is, it's not just my everything. I think every artist deals with the notion of time in some form or another. I wanted to talk about the kind of time that I live in now. And this kind of time does not follow the outside world. It's a kind of a broken experience of time. It's what many disabled people experience. And in the context of making art, it means unpredictability. It means having to sometimes overplan things and then not sticking to the plan. And I would say in my work, this kind of broken, fragmented, unpredictable time, for me, it's communicated through, well, in many different ways. So you have the really slow, laborious work of hand knitting or crocheting or stitching that the artwork directly contains, the record of the hours I've spent making the work. Hopefully, also through the experience of texture or material, there is a need in me to kind of share this idea that time is not really flowing, but maybe broken up into many discrete, awkward moments. So there's lots of time that I experience in silence, in rest, in a constant adjustment and negotiation, if you will. It's a beautiful song. Everyone should go and look it up. So, can ambiguity and accessibility coexist? And I think they can. I think I try to leave my work open, but not necessarily all vague and unclear. It's more about providing a viewer an entry point into the work. So whether it's through the physical medium or fiber, like I'll have people come up to me and say, oh, I'm going to take a picture of this because my daughter crochets little vessels and she'll love this arrangement, where people have responded to the actual material that I've used. Or they are drawn by the concept of, you have these hidden notes inside these vessels. What do they mean? What were you thinking about? Why can't I read these notes? So it's about providing, so accessibility in that sense becomes about inviting viewers into a work that is open and allows them to interpret it in many different ways and relate to it in many different ways. And I feel like the ambiguity there is not necessarily closing off the work, but it's essential for people to have more access to it. I can hear some kind of buzzing sound. I don't know if everyone can, but. On making work as a disabled artist, studio note from August 26, 2023. I don't make work despite being disabled. I make work through disability. It's not about looking beyond disability, but looking right at it. How do I begin a painting? I get asked this at almost every Q&A, so I thought I'll put it in here. So the beginning of a painting for me is the most exciting moment, because it's when I would say I have just one intention of what color I'm going to start with, but the rest is all as unpredictable, as loose, as uncontrolled as possible. And so generally it's with very thin watery paint, and I try to make as wide and sweeping gestures as possible to capture as much raw movement as possible. From that point on, everything else is a response to whatever form and structure was created in those initial moments. If I had a big enough studio, I'd just be beginning paintings all the time. Expressing the body-mind. So the body mind is a concept that I actually first learned about at my Bodies of Work residency with Carrie, and it really changed the way I thought about my work, the way I spoke about my work. Like, I literally changed my artist statement after I came across this, because before then, for me too, it was the body is here, the mind is there, but no, it's actually all connected. And especially in the context of disability, it's very important. It can actually be quite problematic to think about physical disability as separate from the mind. You know, the narrative which I hear often from people is, you think your emotional strength can overcome your physical disability, and that's very harmful, actually. The body mind, writing it, talking about it, thinking about it as one term, really, helps me to focus on the fact that the body and mind are interconnected. Yes, are they always talking to each other, arguing with each other, constantly arguing with each other, but they are interconnected. And in my work, I've really tried to not separate out the work created by the body and the mind. What I mean by that is, people ask me, is painting more physical? Is when you're knitting or crocheting, are you resting? And sure, there are elements of that, but they're not separate. When I'm knitting or crocheting, it's not necessarily no physical labor involved. I'm still pushing against the constraints, if you will, that, the lack of movement. Do I wish that I would be standing and painting at a canvas? Absolutely. So there's always this conversation, whether I'm painting or knitting, sitting, whatever I'm doing. And I think the liberating thing for me was to stop thinking about what is body and what is mind. And that was the biggest learning, that you can just think of them as one interconnected entity. And I really hope to convey some of that through the work and how I speak about the work as well. Why do I knit loops? So ever since I started working with fiber 5 years ago, I've just been knitting these circular loops. They haven't come together in a finished work yet, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. It's kind of more about the intention for me at this point than worrying about what the output is. I just really enjoy knitting them. And I've been thinking about it a lot. I think it's because there's a circularity to time that I'm experiencing as, I'm about to step into my 50s. And I think the metaphor of knitting these loops on circular needles is that they just never resolve and they just keep going. And there is something about that persistence and that infinite, never ending, that's just a really great metaphor for my practice. A studio note from June 20th, 2022. I'm constantly thinking about the color yellow. I'm craving it all the time. I'm obsessed with it. I want to hold it. How do you hold a color? what do the grids and nets in my fiber work signify? So I'll often use ladders or grids or net-like structures in the fiber work, and you know, number one, they are literally support structures, but not just literally, metaphorically too. The thing I like about these structures is they're meant to support, but they're also open, and things actually fall through them. And in that way, they are like a representation of imperfect systems, whether we're thinking about systems of access, systems of care, and I think it's just very meaningful kind of layer to the fiber work to have it rest or lean or be held with this structure that's completely imperfect and actually allows for a lot of things to fall through. Softness and strength, structure and collapse, these are not opposites in my work. The body is losing strength in some physical ways as my disease progresses, but it is also strong in how it continuously adapts to these changes. And maybe there's a strength and a clarity with which I actually move through the world as I become more disabled. The materials that I use are soft. It's yarn, it's thread, it's paper, it's paint, but it holds form. So the collapse, the sagging or the leaning, this is all part of how form finds its balance. in that sense, collapse is not a failure, but merely a resting point. On working while seated. How does a seated body engage with space differently? So most of my work is made while seated, well, almost all of it. I am able to walk, just a disclaimer. I'm able to walk and stand up, but not for any meaningful period of time. So when I started painting, I was able to stand and paint, and the height of canvases that I was working on was, taller than what I do now. I did experiment with flipping canvases upside down to try to reach the top, and then I thought, well, that's silly. Why am I trying to paint like an able-bodied woman? I'm not. So working while seated has led to a different way that I think about scale in my work, obviously. And it's something I'm still thinking through. You walk in an exhibition space, what is eye level? How are you going to experience the work made while I'm seated but hung up at normal eye level? I think the biggest insight for me has been to just try and stay true to my body and how the work is made. Well, the fiber work is definitely more intimate because I'm literally working with it on my lap. So, like I said, the medium of fiber has offered so much accessibility to me, and that's one of the biggest things. I can sit and work and then build these small things, construct them and stitch them up to be something larger than myself. The connections between fiber and painting. Well, I've kind of talked through that a little bit as we've gone along, and this one thought I noted down here is that they don't compete, but they echo. And especially with the paintings I've been making in the last year and a half, I was very excited to see the visual language of my paintings quite literally echo the warp and weft of weaving, the imperfect grids of knitting, the layering of line in crocheting. So it's been very exciting for me, even though I work on paintings in a very different physical space than the fiber work, that they're starting to talk to each other in that manner. And hopefully you see that from some of the images behind me. What do my days look like? Well, do they look like any one thing? Well, I would say my days are extremely fragmented. So I work in parts. It might be a couple of hours of painting in the morning, a couple of hours of rest, 4 hours of knitting, or maybe no physical work at all, and just, rearranging materials or just resting. And I think, well, without getting like way too philosophical here, but just embracing what each day brings has taken on quite a literal meaning in my life. It's not, when people say take it one day at a time, it's like, yes, I literally have no choice but to do that. And I think this kind of fragmented quality to my day is starting to show in my practice, I hope. And yeah, I won't be too mad about that. Like if you can see broken fragments of time, of care, of ability, truncated color, disruptive lines, it's all part of my experience of time. I've been especially attracted to making ropes and cords in the last couple of years, and I think it's the beautiful quality of individual fragile threads that, when twisted together, have so much endurance that they can actually hold weight. So that appears in my work quite a bit. To end the talk, I wanted to read a few lines that I wrote about one of my works called Be in Softness. I wrote this in February 2024. An invitation to stay. The color of a feeling, soft, broken lines, unravel and connect. Consider the body. Pay no mind to yourself. Stay here a while and search for the soft place in your heart. The soft vessel that receives all your daily worries. Can you stay here a while and search for the softness under scar tissue that never fully heals? Thank you. Thanks so much. I think we had some time for questions. I guess they'll bring a mic over.
So, okay. So this ball with the notes, what exactly would you call that?
Well, for today's purposes, it was just a way for me to kind of structure the talk. But I thought about what I wanted to share with you guys today, but I inserted these randomly into this ball of yarn. So I did not want to follow a smooth flow, but more like, a random, almost like, when you're doing something like knitting or painting and thoughts just keep coming to your head and you don't know what you're going to be thinking of next.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, did you make that? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you for sharing it with us. Yes.
I noticed that you have fancy wheels.
Yeah.
What is your feeling on the progression of aid devices and like how they interface with your work and the world in general?
Yeah, like I said, at home I am mobile and I'm trying to be as much as I can, although last year I started using a wheelchair in my home too. And I think other than pillows, I don't use anything else other than, wheels and pillows. So in the studio, I do transfer to like a rolling office chair. I used to be able to paint standing up with the support of my walker, but I can't really do that anymore. So yeah, I I do have people often ask me, like, what about a contraption that can support your arms, or like,
That was my actual
you know.
question.
Yeah, I've thought about it, well, not thought about it in the last 2 or 3 years, but initially I did think about it when I was making much larger paintings, and I wanted to I mean, I still make large paintings, but larger ones. And I just made a choice for now that I don't want to use any support aids, and I just want to capture as much of the body's movements as possible. Yeah, but never say never, right? Like, I don't know.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, that was a really nice talk. And
Thank you.
so in your abstract paintings, I frequently was seeing, you kept mentioning movement. I kept seeing couples dancing, just like over and over again from
I
painting
love
to
that.
painting. Oh, that's it was joyous. It was beautiful. So my question is, with your own abstract paintings, after you finished them, do you find yourself like seeing stories in the paintings afterwards?
You know, it's quite tricky as an artist to keep looking at your work after you finished it. Like, I would say I look at my work a lot before it's finished. Once it's finished, all I tend to see is the struggles of resolving the painting, or how much the painting fought with me when I was trying to make it. Or, well, it's not always all bad. Like, sometimes it's just the joy of when you finish a painting and you just know it's done. That is a meaningful moment. But in terms of looking at it and actually seeing forms, movements, stories, I think that would get too analytical for me personally. So, if someone points something out to me, then sure, like, okay, does this look like a lion's head to you? Yeah, okay, maybe. But it's weird, I've made so many paintings, but if I look at it, I can probably still remember the time in my life when I made them. Yeah. I leave all the stories to the viewers.
So I was wondering, like, at times when you find yourself like in a artist block, what colors do you go to? Like, like your go-to color to start off? I understand, like, you like yellow, but like, if
Well, that was a particular craving. I still remember I just wanted to work only with yellow for a while. I ordered tons of yellow yarn. So for me, color is the foundation of everything that I make. And I work with all the colors all the time, if that's possible. If I find myself, like, the minute I finish a blue painting, I want to work on a red one, So I think of color as temperature more than just the hue. So it will be more a feeling of warmth or coolness. In artists, well, when I felt like I'm not quite sure what to make for a show or even the next painting, for me, it's actually removing color that helps. So I go back to drawing. So drawing is something I've done ever since I can remember being on this earth. And I don't do it as often as I used to, but time and time again in the last 8 years, it has helped to go back to drawing. Even just a 2 week of drawing every day without color actually helps me.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. You had mentioned that the beginning of a painting is the most exciting to you. I'm curious what the ending of a painting is like to you.
Maybe we should ask my husband that. No. So I think it depends, right? There have been many paintings that have ended as a question. Like, I have paintings that I have not shared with people because I feel like they're kind of a bridge to the next painting. I'll never make a painting like that again because it's leading me off into another direction, and I want to go there, not just stop there. So I think finishing a painting For me, a painting is finished when I title it, and I love titling my work. I do think that is, it is a happy moment when I can I collect words all the time, and when I finish a painting, I'll go through that list and see if something kind of attaches itself to the painting, and that's how I've been doing it for 8 years, so it's worked, always worked. I think that moment is actually very fulfilling for me. But yeah, there are many paintings in between that don't feel like they're a resolved work, but merely a step to get to the next one.
Thank you for that incredible presentation.
Thank you.
And the format was just incredible. Since we're all on the topic of color, it sounds like you have this very bodily relationship to color. You talk about holding yellow. You talk about the color of a feeling. Could you expand a bit more on this relationship that you may be having, and not specific to painting or fiber, but just with color and through the, like you said, you are making work through your disability, right?
Yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
could you kind of speak about those two together?
Yeah, I think, we all experience color emotionally. And, going back to what I was talking about with the body-mind, I think it's not just an emotional response. You actually have a physical response to color as well. And I think for me, maybe just, first of all, growing up in India and just being exposed to that vocabulary of color, to not be afraid of color, to just search for color, think about color from a very young age. So as I was developing, even though I was not an artist, or I had not claimed myself to be an artist yet, and I don't even think you have to be artists, right? Like the women in my family that were doing needlework or, just planning outfits for a wedding. I mean, I'm so grateful that I grew up with that just having to constantly think about how to make colors work. And I think, I've now lived outside of India for more years than I spent in India, so I won't say that all my color vocabulary is Indian. I think what I mean by when I want to hold a color or crave a color is that I just want to be immersed in it. And for me, luckily, as an artist, I can do that, right? I think, the way we dress ourselves, I don't always wear black. So I'm definitely not one of those artists, but I have realized that if I'm wearing a purple top, I'll tend to use either more purple in my work or a complementary color. Like if I'm looking at purple, I'll want to pick up some red and green, I think it's an obsession or a madness in me that I'm just constantly thinking about color and combinations of color too, I feel like are important.
Yes, I really had enjoyed your fabric art. I did fiber. It's very hard to do it. Take your time at your success. But painter is a very young art fabric. And how long it's going to take to do that in current painter?
So you're asking how long it takes for me to make a work of fiber art?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of the fiber pieces that I would say are finished artworks have taken me about 2 years. So the way I'll work is, like for my work called Be in Softness, I knit about 240 vessels. So now I knit them over a period of almost 2 years. So with the fiber art, it's not like I set out to make a piece and decide how many strips or cords or vessels I need to knit. I'm just constantly making stuff and then I kind of put them together, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry to hear that, and I really appreciate you did much better than mine. I don't sew that good, just a little bit. My late aunt used to, she was the best sewing. I've been artist for too long, for almost 28 years, because I want to move in the right direction. I'm very happy for you. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think.
How was the transition from the painting to the fiber world of art help you create more beautiful things or enhance your ability to do all?
So I won't really say I've transitioned from painting to fiber since I'm very much still painting. But if you mean the addition of fiber as a complementary medium to my practice, I mean, it's just provided a very different tactical layer to the work. With fiber, I'm also, literally working in another dimension. So I've been making sculptures, fiber sculptures, soft vessels, larger, not body scaled, but, sculptures now. So how it has enhanced, well, it's enhanced the practice because now I can make all the time. I can't paint all the time. But if it's helping me make more beautiful things, I think that would be for you to judge. Like I find fiber a very, very beautiful medium to work with. It literally doesn't matter what I'm making with it. Like when I'm knitting this, I'm just enjoying this. This is hand spun, naturally dyed linen from India. And when I'm working with it, it almost doesn't matter what the end result is. It's just the beauty of working with it for me.
Hey, hi, Pooja.
Hi.
Follow up to this question here. I had the same kind of question. What I was wondering is, you mentioned the body-mind, and that got me thinking a lot about body-mind and what that means. And I see a lot of body in your paintings because there is the struggle there that I think you described so well of the fragmentation, and you're okay showing that fragmentation because of the limits of your body and being able to work in certain hours and not in other hours. But what I was wondering is where the mind enters into the work. And what I was thinking about with that was does your fiber work involve your mind more, or is it sort of expressive of your mind and the painting is more the body, or do you even look at it that way?
Yeah, I used to, and I'm trying not to anymore, right? So my very first artist statement actually talked about the drips of paint are bodily, the dots I paint on top are my mind, and I realized that that's not correct, first of all. It's just wrong. That's just not how the body works or the mind works. The question is not whether your literal body is creating something or your literal mind. I mean, what can your literal mind create other than an idea anyway, or a feeling? So, the body is a vehicle for your mind to create, one could say. But in my practice, when fiber was not part of it, there were definitely times when I was slow, but I wanted to keep painting. So that's why I was painting all these little dots on top of the paint drips. And I thought of those as, okay, a still mind. Like the mind is about, you think about meditative stillness and you think of the mind, but it's actually your body that has to be still. Your mind could still be running in a million different directions when your body's sitting still. So when I started thinking about it that way, all I saw were connections between body and mind, not this separation, right? Like sitting in meditation, is your body sitting still or is your mind sitting still? So it's the same way, and even with the recent paintings, I'm painting these lines all over the surface of the canvas. That is a slower part of the painting process. Whether it comes from the body or mind, I don't know. Should we, yeah? So for anyone who wishes to stay for this making activity, basically I wanted to kind of facilitate a little, I'm calling it a rapt reflection. So in the theme of what I've talked about today, if you want to take a minute to write or think about a reflection and kind of wrap it in a soft place, you can join me in this. I can kind of go through this with you, or you can do it later at home. So I think each one of you has a packet. If somebody is not able to stay for this, please, I'll give you guys a minute if people need to leave, I think. But for those who are staying, we can talk about all the materials I've included in this packet. And for those who can't stay, thank you very much for coming today and listening to me talk. Okay, so there's a pencil, some paper, a little piece of board to kind of rest your paper on. And there's a little pencil. If anyone needs, like if their pencil's broken or something, we have some extra ones up here. So I've included just some lined paper. If you can take a minute to write a reflection, it can be something related to your body-mind experience. It could be literally anything that maybe, you know, what I've talked about made you think about something in your own life that's relevant. In the packet, I've also included a pebble and a feather. So if it is a thought or an intention that you'd like to hold for yourself, I would encourage you to wrap the note with the pebble, because it adds some weight. And if it's something that you wish to let go of, you can enclose it with a feather. There's a piece of cloth for you to wrap up your note in once you're done writing. If you're unable to participate in the writing or would need some assistance, please let us know. You can also just think about the reflection. It does not necessarily have to be written. The folding paper can just be a symbolic gesture. And once you've written it, you can either crumple it up, fold it neatly, do whatever you want with it. I like crumpling it up. I've made a series of objects that actually involve old crumpled drawings. And then you can think about whether you want to hold on to this or let it go. If you open out the cloth, you can lay your paper. I'm going to do something that I want to remember and hold on to. So I'm going to add my pebble to it. And hopefully the cloth is large enough to wrap your paper. But if you need extra supplies, we have some. So please ask. And in each packet, I've provided yarn from my own stash. Hopefully you like the color combinations I've selected for everybody. And again, I have some extra yarn here too. But if you just start wrapping, so everyone should have a white yarn. And I love white because it really shows off the other colors. It can Well, to me, this particular yarn that I think I've enclosed in almost every packet is like a literal bandage. So I like to think that it's a very healing material. And then you can just start wrapping it in any direction. In the initial stages, don't be too precious with it. You can shape it, it's just paper inside, so you can shape it with your fingers. But I basically just start by wrapping it in any direction. I think we have some scissors too if people need to cut, but I would encourage you to wrap. I mean, I pre-cut all these lengths of yarn and it feels like a lot, but it's not. And I like to start with white, but you could start with any color and then put the white on top. That can be beautiful too, because then you'll see little colors kind of peeking through. There's also a plastic weaving needle if you need to kind of tuck any of the loose ends in. If you need some help doing that, I can help you. So you can wrap as tightly as you wish. In the beginning, it helps to be a little bit tight with it. Yeah, definitely. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that if somebody would like a more accessible option of inserting the reflection and the fabric into a pouch instead of wrapping it, we have those available as well. So please ask. This is for the ends. So, if you have like a little tail sticking out, here I'll show you with one. You can basically, it's like a weaving needle, so it's got a big eye, so even if the yarn is quite thick, you can just kind of take the tail of, I think that screen is showing a close-up of my hands as well. So you could thread the yarn and kind of go over and under the wrapping like that if you want to. So everything doesn't have to be on top of the previous yarn. You can kind of go through and like just weave. Okay, I was looking for that slide. So that's an image of a lot of different objects that I've made like this. But I had all these old drawings that I felt didn't really work anymore, but the paper was too beautiful to throw away. So I crumpled them up into different shapes and wrapped them like this. And I don't know if everyone can see on that screen or if someone wants to come up close and have a look, but basically if you've got an end like that and everything's too tightly wrapped to, kind of stick your finger through, you can use the needle. So without threading the needle, I would just go through. Oh. I would just go. So if you have the end of the yarn and it's too short, right, to thread through the needle, you can just simply go over and under where you want the yarn to go and then put the yarn through the eye and then just kind of pull it. Yeah.
It's great. I like that you got me off the canvas.
Sorry?
I like that you got me off the canvas.
Yes.
I feel like I'm doing something, but I'm not sure.
And I said fiber is less messy, and I'm literally making a mess over here.
Just as a truth.
Yes.
So if I'm looking like this, that doesn't mean like my mind is jumping up there.
All our minds are jumbled up. I think that's normal.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
That's actually a good thing. Because you can't really plan this. Like you can't really plan, like how much of the paper will stick out, which color will. Are you trying it too?
He's finished all day.
Yeah, I definitely did not want anyone to run out of yarn. I never ever wish that on anyone. Oops. We didn't do sound checks for me laughing into the mic. My birthday? February 24th. When's your birthday? Oh. That's when you painted that? Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Yeah. Really? February 24th, really? No. Prove it. I don't believe you.
Let me double check. Let me see when I take the picture of this.
Yes. I mean, I just really love wrapping yarn, so as you can tell. I probably should, right? You can like fold them all.
And that was February 14th.
Close enough. Close enough. It's my birth month. You know, the one beautiful thing about yarn, you can always cut it. Well, if you want, you don't need to, but you can. Really? We're all like cats with string.
That's exactly what he did. Thank you. Okay, yours are just up there just, you were doing what you already did, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. you know you have to share the note with your wife. It can't be private. I'm going to unravel it. So now I've taken the mystery out of how I made those. Oh, it's gone. I thought that was going to stay up there. If you don't like the colors that are with your packet, you can ask your neighbor, like maybe you like their color better. Maybe they'll share some of the yarn with you. Don't have anything else. That felt like a leading question. To say something. Oh. Sorry? Yeah, we can. I can. I was just, should I thank everyone? People seem to be paying attention to their things. Yeah, should we turn it off now? We can turn off the mic. Yeah, okay. It's off? Yeah. Time is my everything. So Time. Ian Brown. I think, yeah, I hate to talk when everyone is looking really engrossed in their wrapping. But in case, people are leaving too, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for spending some of your time with me. I always wonder, why people want to hear me talk. So thank you. Thanks so much, everyone. Thank you.